message arrived at Earth Command at 400 hours. It was desperate and broken, filled with static and interference. Ambassador Yonhua Xin listened to it 3 times before she fully understood what she was hearing. The Galactic Coalition was dying. For 3 years, the alien species of the galaxy had fought against the Vrakthun Empire. The war had consumed entire star systems. Billions had died. Now 17 worlds in the Nexus expanse were surrounded. The Coalition's best fleets were burning in space. Their commanders were sending final messages to their home worlds. Yonhua stood in the council chamber, her tablet showing the grim numbers. The Keltharians had lost 60% of their military. The Morphids were down to their last carrier group. The Silurians were preparing to evacuate their colonies. In 48 hours, maybe less, it would all be over. "They're asking for our help," she said to the assembled human commanders. Admiral Taemin Choi sat at the head of the table. He was 52 years old, with gray streaking through his black hair. He had fought in the border conflicts 20 years ago. He knew what war looked like. He knew what desperation smelled like. "What exactly are they offering?" he asked. Yonhua pulled up the transmission. "Full membership in the coalition. Technology sharing. Trade agreements. They're offering everything they have. Because they have nothing left to lose," said Captain Jiwan Park. She was younger than the Admiral, only 34, but she had risen through the ranks faster than anyone in recent memory. She commanded the HSS Indomitable, humanity's newest and most powerful warship. Taemin nodded slowly. "Show me the tactical situation." The holographic display lit up the center of the table. Red marked the Vrakthun forces. Blue marked what remained of the coalition. The red was everywhere. The blue was dying. "The Vrakthun use bioorganic ships," Jiwan explained. "They adapt to enemy weapons. The coalition has tried everything. Missiles, energy weapons, kinetic strikes. Nothing works for long. The enemy just adapts and comes back stronger." "What about their numbers?" asked Commander Sang-Wook Kim. He was the youngest person in the room at 29. He led the Raptor fighter squadron, the best pilots humanity had ever trained. "Overwhelming," Jiwan said. "They have at least 3,000 capital ships in the Nexus expanse. Maybe more. The coalition has less than 500 left, and most of those are damaged." The room fell silent. The numbers were impossible. Even humanity's advanced military would struggle against those odds. Dr. Hyojin Lee spoke up from her seat near the back. She was the chief weapons scientist, the person who had designed most of humanity's modern arsenal. "We have advantages they don't know about." All eyes turned to her. "Our plasma weapons don't care about bioorganic shields," she continued. "We've been testing them for years. The Vrakthun adaptations won't work against physics. Plasma is plasma. What else?" Taemin asked. "Quantum entanglement communication. Null point FTL. AI tactical prediction. Cascade warheads." Heejin counted on her fingers. "We've been preparing for a galactic war since we first detected alien signals 50 years ago. We built everything with that in mind." Taemin stood and walked to the holographic display. He studied the red markers, the positions of enemy fleets. "How long would it take to deploy our forces?" "The first contact war fleet is ready now," Jiwan said. 200 ships. Full complement of fighters, drones, and support craft. We can launch within 6 hours. Travel time? 3 days at maximum FTL speed to reach the Nexus expanse. Taemin did the math in his head. The coalition had 48 hours before total collapse. The human fleet would arrive a full day too late. "We'll be attending a funeral, not a fight," said Colonel Hyun-woo. "Oh, commander of the Marine Assault Division." He was a large man with a scarred face and a voice like gravel. "Unless we have another option," Taemin said, looking at Hyojin. The scientist smiled slightly. "Null point FTL can be pushed. We can cut 12 hours off the travel time. Maybe more, but it will be hard on the crews." "Hard how?" "Uncomfortable, exhausting. Some people will get sick, but everyone will survive." Taemin turned back to Yonhua. "What are they offering in terms of tactical command?" The ambassador hesitated. "They want us to integrate with their forces. Follow their battle plans. Coordinate through their command structure." "No," Taemin said immediately. "Admiral, they're the ones who have been fighting this war. And they're the ones who are losing," Taemin interrupted. "If we're going to risk human lives, we do it our way. Complete tactical autonomy or we stay home." Yonhua sighed. She had expected this. "I'll tell them. But Admiral, they might refuse." Then they can die on their own, Taman said coldly. I won't throw away human lives following failed strategies. The room fell silent again. It was a harsh position, but everyone present understood it. Humanity had one chance to make an impact. If they followed the Coalition's methods, they would just add their ships to the graveyard. There's something else, G1 said quietly. The Coalition doesn't think we can win. They've seen the reports about our military, but they don't believe them. They think we're too young, too inexperienced. They're asking for help because they have no other choice, not because they have faith in us. Good, Taman said. Let them underestimate us. It will make the victory sweeter. He turned to address the entire room. If we do this, if we enter this war, we're not going as junior partners. We're going as the people who are going to end it. The Vraktan have never fought humans before. They don't know what we're capable of. That's our advantage. Sir, Sangwook said, what if we can't win? What if it really is impossible? Taman looked at the young commander. Humanity has faced impossible odds before. We're still here. The species that said we couldn't survive. The nations that said we couldn't unite. The wars that should have ended us. We overcame them all. This is just another impossible situation, and we're going to do what humans do best. What's that, sir? Asked Lieutenant Nari Song, the communications officer who had been quietly taking notes. We're going to prove everyone wrong, Taman said with a slight smile. The meeting ended an hour later. Yanhua transmitted humanity's conditions to the Coalition. The response came back within 30 minutes. The Coalition accepted. They had no choice. The first contact war fleet began launching 6 hours later. 200 ships, humanity's finest. They carried weapons the galaxy had never seen. They used technology the Coalition couldn't imagine. And they were led by people who had learned warfare through thousands of years of human conflict. Admiral Taemin Choi stood on the bridge of the Indomitable as the fleet entered FTL. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead of them, the Nexus expanse waited. 17 worlds. Billions of lives. One chance, maximum speed, he ordered. We have a war to win. The fleet moved through dark space like a swarm of silent predators. 200 human vessels, each one invisible to conventional sensors, traveled at speeds that should have torn reality apart. Inside the ships, crews worked in organized chaos, preparing for a battle that would decide the fate of civilizations. Lieutenant Nari Song sat at her communication station aboard the Indomitable, monitoring hundreds of channels simultaneously. The quantum entanglement network linked every ship in the fleet with zero delay. When a captain on the far edge of the formation had a thought, Nari could relay it to the Admiral instantly. Sir, I'm picking up Coalition transmissions from the Nexus expanse, she said. They're not good. Admiral Taemin Choi moved to stand behind her. Show me. The messages played across her screen. Distress calls. Retreat orders. Final goodbyes. The Coalition was collapsing faster than predicted. The Vraktan were pressing their advantage. Overwhelming defensive positions one after another. How long until we arrive? Taemin asked. Captain Jiwon Park checked her navigation console. 26 hours at current speed. But we're pushing the FTL drives hard. Engineering says we might be able to cut another 2 hours. Do it, Taemin ordered. In the ship's medical bay, crew members were already feeling the effects of extended high-speed FTL travel. Nausea, headaches, disorientation. Dr. Hyojin Lee had warned them about this. The human body wasn't designed to move this fast through folded space. But everyone endured it without complaint. They knew what was at stake. Colonel Hyun Woo. Oh walked through the Marine barracks inspecting his troops. 5,000 Marines, the best humanity had trained. They wore powered armor that could withstand plasma fire. They carried weapons that could punch through reinforced steel. They were ready for boarding actions, for close combat, for whatever the battle required. Do you think we'll get to fight? Asked one of the younger Marines. Hyun-woo smiled grimly. Hope we don't have to. If things go according to plan, this will be a ship-to-ship battle. But if the Vraktan try to board us, or if we need to take one of their vessels, he patted his rifle. Then we'll show them why humans are still apex predators. In the war room, Taemin gathered his senior staff. The holographic display showed the Nexus expanse in detail now. 17 star systems, each one under siege. The Vraktan had split their forces into attack groups, each one overwhelming a different world. This is why they've been winning, Jiwon explained to the assembled officers. They don't fight concentrated battles. They spread out and overwhelmed defenders through sheer numbers. The coalition can't be everywhere at once, but we can, said Commander Sang-Wook Kim. Everyone looked at him. Our null point FTL doesn't just make us fast, he continued. It lets us arrive exactly where we want with no warning, no spatial distortion. We could hit all 17 systems at the same time. Ji-won nodded. That's exactly what I'm proposing. We divide our fleet into 17 strike groups. Each group has enough firepower to handle the Vrakthun forces in one system. We jump in simultaneously, hit them before they can adapt, and move to support any group that needs help. That's insane, said one of the other captains. We'd be splitting our forces against a superior enemy. That's exactly what you're not supposed to do. Against a conventional enemy, yes, Ji-won agreed. But the Vrakthun aren't conventional. They adapt to threats. If we come at them with our full fleet, they'll have time to analyze our weapons and adjust. But if we hit them everywhere at once in the first 60 seconds before they can coordinate a response, we can cripple them. Taemin studied the tactical display. It was risky. If any of the strike groups got into trouble, help would be minutes away instead of seconds. But Ji-won was right. The element of surprise was everything in this battle. What about their command structure? He asked. Heejin brought up new data. We've been analyzing the coalition's battle recordings. The Vrakthun use a networked consciousness. Their ships are connected, sharing information and adaptations instantly. It makes them incredibly coordinated. That sounds like an advantage for them, said Hyunwoo. It is, Heejin agreed, but it's also a weakness. If their ships are networked, then a weapon that targets that network could be devastating. That's what the Cascade warheads are for. She pulled up a simulation. The warheads don't just explode. They emit a quantum disruption pulse that interferes with bioorganic neural networks. One warhead takes out one ship. But if the ships are connected, the disruption cascades through the network, damaging everything linked to it. How many do we have? Taemin asked. 50. We've been building them for the last 2 years, just in case we ever faced a networked enemy. Just in case, repeated Sang-Wook with a slight smile. You really did prepare for everything. Hyejin shrugged. Humanity spent 10,000 years fighting each other. We learned every possible way to win a war. Now we're just applying those lessons on a bigger scale. The briefing continued for another hour. Every officer received their assignments. Every ship knew its target. The entire battle plan was uploaded to the Quantum Entanglement Network, available to every crew member instantly. As the meeting ended, Nari received another transmission from the Nexus Expanse. Her face went pale as she read it. Admiral, she said quietly, the Coalition's last stronghold just fell. The Vrakthun are preparing to deploy planet-killer weapons. They're going to sterilize all 17 worlds. The room went silent. Everyone understood what that meant. If those weapons launched, billions would die. The Coalition species would face extinction. How long? Taemin asked. Unknown. The transmission cut off before they could give us details. But based on Vrakthun tactics, they usually deploy planet killers within 24 hours of securing a system. Taemin looked at the countdown timer. 24 hours until they arrived. Maybe less if engineering could push the drives harder. But it would be close. Too close. Send a message to all ships, he ordered. Maximum possible speed. I don't care if every crew member is vomiting in their bunks. We need to get there faster. Sir, Ji-won said carefully. If we push any harder, we risk drive failures. Ships could drop out of FTL randomly. Then we risk it, Taemin said firmly. Those 17 worlds don't have time for us to be cautious. Over the next hours, the fleet pushed itself to the breaking point. Engineers worked frantically to keep the drives stable. Medical teams distributed nausea medication to every crew member. The entire fleet focused on one goal: arrive in time. Sang-Wook sat in his fighter secured in the carrier bay of the Indomitable. Around him, his pilots prepared their craft. They ran system checks, tested weapons, and reviewed the battle plan. They knew they would be the first wave, the tip of the spear that would punch through the Vrakthun defenses. Think we can do it? Asked his wingman. Sang-Wook looked at the tactical data on his display. 3,000 enemy capital ships. Overwhelming numbers. Adaptive technology. Home field advantage, yeah, he said. We can do it. How can you be so sure? Because we're human, Sang-Wook said simply. We don't know how to quit. The fleet continued its silent approach through dark space. Behind them, Earth was 3 days distant. Ahead of them, the Nexus Expanse burned. and in 18 hours the war would be decided. Admiral Taemin Choi stood alone on the observation deck, watching the distorted stars of FTL travel. He thought about the coalition species, about the billions of lives depending on human intervention. He thought about his own crew, young men and women who would soon face the most powerful enemy the galaxy had ever known. And he thought about humanity's long, violent history. All the wars, all the blood, all the lessons learned in fire and pain. For the first time in history, all that accumulated knowledge of warfare would be used to protect others instead of destroying them. "We're ready," he whispered to himself. "Let's show them what humans can do." The Nexus expanse was dying. Across 17 star systems, debris fields marked where mighty fleets had fought and lost. Escape pods drifted between dead ships carrying survivors who had nowhere to go. The Vraktan bioships moved through the wreckage like sharks, hunting down the last coalition vessels. On the fourth planet of the Keltharian system, Commander Reth watched his screens with empty eyes. He was the last ranking officer of the Keltharian Defense Force. Everyone above him was dead. His fleet was gone. His world was surrounded. "How long?" he asked his sensor officer. "The Vraktan planet killer is charging. 2 hours until it fires." Reth nodded slowly. 2 hours until everything ended. His people had fought for 3 years. They had given everything, and it hadn't been enough. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the humans," his communications officer said suddenly. "They say they're 18 minutes out." Reth almost laughed. 18 minutes. The coalition had sent messages to Earth weeks ago. The humans had promised to help, but everyone knew they would arrive too late. Now here they were, claiming they were minutes away. "It's probably a mistake," he said, "or a lie to give us false hope. Should I respond?" "No. Let them find our corpses when they arrive." The Vraktan commander Threshenak watched the Keltharian world from his flagship. The bioorganic vessel pulsed around him, its walls breathing, its systems alive. He felt the ship's hunger, its desire to consume and grow. Soon, he thought, soon this world would be scoured clean, its resources harvested, its biomass absorbed into the Vraktan collective, and then they would move to the next world and the next until the entire galaxy belonged to them. "Status?" he asked his tactical officer. "All 17 systems are secure. Coalition forces are eliminated or scattered. Planet killers are charging across all targets. Synchronized detonation in 2 hours. Excellent. The Vraktan Empire grows stronger. Sir, we're detecting spatial anomalies." Threshenak turned to his sensor officer. "What kind of anomalies?" "Unknown. Multiple points across the system. But they're fading. Probably just FTL echoes from the destroyed coalition ships." Aboard the HSS Indomitable, Admiral Taemin Choi watched the countdown timer reach 0. "All ships," he said calmly into the quantum entanglement network. "Execute jump. Protocol cleansing fire." The universe folded. 200 human warships appeared simultaneously across 17 star systems. Not near the systems. Not approaching them. Inside them, already in perfect firing positions. The null point FTL technology left no warning. No spatial distortion. No energy signature. One moment, empty space. The next moment, human warships in attack formation. Commander Reth's sensor board exploded with contacts. "Sir." "Multiple vessels!" "Hundreds of them. They're everywhere." Reth stared at the display. Human ships surrounded the Vraktan forces. They had appeared in a perfect sphere, every ship positioned for maximum firing angle. It was impossible. FTL travel always created distortions, warnings, time to react. But the humans had just appeared from nothing. "Get me a tactical analysis," he shouted. "Sir, the human fleet is broadcasting to all coalition survivors. They're telling us to move away from Vraktan vessels immediately." "How long do we have?" "They say 30 seconds. Reth didn't hesitate. "All ships, emergency thrust." "Get clear of the enemy now." The few surviving coalition vessels fired their engines and scattered. Threshenak finally understood something was wrong when his bioship began screaming. The vessel's consciousness, networked with every other Vraktan ship, suddenly detected hundreds of new threats. Ships that appeared from nowhere. Ships with weapon signatures the collective had never seen before. All vessels, defensive formation. Begin adaptation protocols. But the Vraktan had no time. "Fire," Admiral Taemin said. 200 human warships opened fire at the same instant. Plasma weapons, developed over decades of secret research, lanced through space. They didn't rely on chemistry or biology. They used pure physics. superheated matter moving at relativistic speeds. The Vrakthun bioshields, designed to adapt to enemy weapons, tried to analyze the incoming fire, but plasma was plasma. You couldn't adapt to the fourth state of matter. The shields failed. Vrakthun ships began to explode. Captain Jiwon Park watched the tactical display with satisfaction. Every shot was coordinated through the AI prediction system. Every target was calculated for maximum damage. The human fleet fought as one organism, more coordinated than even the Vrakthun collective. Enemy vessels attempting evasive maneuvers, reported her tactical officer. Our AI already knows where they're going, Jiwon said. Adjust firing solutions accordingly. The AI prediction system analyzed Vrakthun movement patterns in milliseconds. It calculated 1,000 possible maneuvers and predicted which ones the enemy would choose. Human weapons fired at empty space where enemy ships would be seconds later. The Vrakthun flew directly into the attacks. Commander Sang-wook Kim launched from the Indomitable's fighter bay with his entire squadron behind him. 300 fighter craft, each one equipped with plasma cannons and guided by AI targeting systems. Raptor Squadron, engage Vrakthun command vessels. Swarm protocol. The human fighters moved in perfect coordination. They didn't fight as individuals. They fought as a single, massive organism. When one pilot fired, 10 others adjusted their positions to support. When one ship took damage, 2 others immediately moved to cover. The Vrakthun had never seen anything like it. Their bioships tried to target the fighters, but the humans were too fast, too coordinated. Drone fighters mixed with piloted craft, creating a swarm that was impossible to track. Sang-wook locked onto a Vrakthun cruiser and fired. His plasma cannons burned through the ship's hull in seconds. Behind him, his squadron took out the cruiser's escort vessels. Ahead, another target appeared. Keep moving, he shouted to his pilots. Don't give them time to adapt. But the Vrakthun couldn't adapt. The battle was happening too fast. By the time their bioorganic systems analyzed one threat, 3 more appeared. The networked consciousness that made them so strong suddenly became a weakness. Every ship screamed its confusion to every other ship, creating chaos instead of coordination. Dr. Hyejin Lee monitored the battle from her lab aboard the Indomitable. The weapon systems were performing perfectly. Plasma efficiency was at 98%. The AI prediction accuracy was at 94%, and the Vrakthun were dying. Admiral, she said over the quantum link, they're trying to retreat. Multiple ships are attempting to jump to FTL. Don't let them, Taemin ordered. I want every Vrakthun ship in the system destroyed or disabled. Hyejin activated the EM pulse batteries. The human ships released focused electromagnetic pulses that disrupted FTL drives. Vrakthun vessels trying to escape found their engines dead. They were trapped. Lieutenant Nari Song coordinated communications across all 17 systems simultaneously. The quantum entanglement network meant she could talk to every human ship with 0 delay. It was overwhelming, hundreds of voices in her ear. But she managed it all. Admiral, we're receiving surrender requests from Vrakthun forces in Systems 3, 7, and 12. Tell them to power down all weapons and prepare to be boarded, Taemin ordered. Any ship that doesn't comply gets destroyed. Yes, sir. The battle raged for 12 minutes. 12 minutes of coordinated human firepower against an enemy who had never faced such precision. The Vrakthun had fought the coalition for 3 years. They had grown confident. They had believed themselves invincible. They were wrong. Commander Reth watched in disbelief as the human fleet systematically dismantled the Vrakthun forces. Ships that had seemed unstoppable were now burning wrecks. The planet killer that had been about to destroy his world was now disabled. Its bioorganic systems shut down by human EM weapons. Get me a casualty count, he said quietly. Of the Vrakthun forces, sir, they're at 83% losses. Most of their remaining ships are disabled. And human losses? 3%, sir. Most of those are minor damage from debris. Reth sat back in his chair. 3%. The humans had lost 3% of their forces while destroying the Vrakthun fleet. It was impossible. It was incredible. It was salvation. Open a channel to the human flagship, he said. Admiral Taemin appeared on his screen seconds later. Commander Reth, the human said with a slight nod. Your world is secure. The planet killer has been disabled. How? Reth asked. How did you do this? Taemin smiled slightly. We've been preparing for this war for a long time. We just didn't know who the enemy would be. But your coordination, your weapons, your tactics are the result of 10,000 years of human warfare, Taemin interrupted. We learned to fight by fighting each other. Now we're using those lessons to protect others. Reth felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Thank you, he said simply. Don't thank me yet, Taemin replied. We still have 16 other systems to secure. And then we're going to have a very serious conversation with the Vrakthun Empire about the price of peace. The Vrakthun Supreme Commander Vornash watched the battle reports with growing horror. 17 systems, 17 coordinated attacks, and in every single one his forces were being destroyed. How is this possible? He demanded from his command throne aboard the Imperial flagship, 3 systems away from the fighting. They're a young species. They've barely left their homeworld. His tactical officer trembled as he responded. Supreme Commander, their technology is beyond anything we've encountered. Their weapons ignore our adaptive shields. Their coordination is perfect. And their tactical predictions, they know what we're going to do before we do it. Vornash felt the collective consciousness of his biofleet screaming in pain. Every destroyed ship sent its death cry across the network. Every disabled vessel transmitted its fear. The Vrakthun Empire had conquered a dozen species. They had never known defeat until now. Activate the contingency, he ordered coldly. Sir, the planet killers are already disabled in most systems. Not those, Vornash interrupted. Activate the biological planet killers. All of them. If we cannot have those worlds, no one can. Across the Nexus expanse, deep within disabled Vrakthun vessels, dormant weapon systems came to life. These weren't the large planet killers that took hours to charge. These were biological warheads, designed to release engineered viruses that would consume all organic life on a planet within days. They were small, fast, and nearly impossible to stop once launched. And there were 17 of them, one for each inhabited world. Lieutenant Nari Song's board lit up with warnings. Admiral, we're detecting launch signatures, multiple projectiles from disabled Vrakthun vessels. Admiral Taemin Choi's expression went cold. Identification? Bioweapons, sir. They're heading for the inhabited planets. Impact in 15 minutes. Every human officer on the bridge understood immediately. 15 minutes, 17 worlds, billions of lives. Get me all fleet commanders, Taemin ordered. Now. The quantum entanglement network connected him to every captain, every squadron leader, every marine commander simultaneously. This is Admiral Choi. The Vrakthun have launched biological planet killers. We have 15 minutes to intercept all of them. Execute Aegis Protocol immediately. Aegis Protocol. The emergency plan they had hoped never to use. Every ship would have to reposition to intercept incoming weapons. It meant abandoning attack formations. It meant exposing themselves to enemy fire. It meant sacrificing tactical advantage to save civilian lives. No one hesitated. Captain Ji-Won Park's hands flew across her console. Navigation. Plot intercept course for bioweapon designated Target 7. Maximum thrust. Captain, that puts us directly in the path of 3 Vrakthun cruisers. I don't care. Plot the course. The Indomitable broke formation and accelerated toward the incoming warhead. Around the Nexus expanse, 200 human ships did the same. The coordinated assault became a desperate rescue operation. Commander Sang-Wook Kim received his orders through his helmet display. Raptor Squadron, we have 4 bioweapons that capital ships can't reach in time. We're the only ones fast enough, his wingman cursed. Boss, those things have point defense systems. We get close, we're dead. Then we better not miss, Sang-Wook said. He punched his engines and accelerated toward the nearest bioweapon. His squadron followed without question. The biological warhead was small, about the size of a fighter craft. But it was fast and maneuverable, designed to evade interception. Its surface was covered in automated weapons that fired at anything that got close. Sang-Wook pushed his fighter to maximum speed. Behind him, his squadron split into attack formations. They had practiced this 1,000 times. Now it was real. Swarm protocol, he ordered. Don't give it time to target us all. The fighters came in from every angle. The bioweapons defenses opened fire, tracking multiple targets. One human fighter took a direct hit and exploded. Then another. But the rest kept coming. Sang-Wook waited until he was in knife fighting range, so close he could see the bioorganic surface of the warhead. Then he fired everything. Plasma cannons, missiles, even his emergency kinetic rounds. The warhead's shields flared and failed. The projectile exploded in a brilliant flash. "Target down," he shouted. "Moving to the next one." 3 more bioweapons to stop. 12 minutes remaining. Dr. Hai-Jin Lee worked frantically in her lab. She had identified a weakness in the bioweapons. They used organic targeting systems that could be disrupted, but doing so required getting close enough to emit a quantum pulse. Very close. "Admiral, I can disable the bioweapons at close range, but our ships will need to get within 100 meters. "Do it," Taman ordered without hesitation. Ships across the Nexus expanse pushed themselves to dangerous speeds. They ignored enemy fire. They ignored safety protocols. They had one mission: protect the civilians below. The HSS Seoul, a destroyer under Captain Minji's command, intercepted its target with only 3 minutes to spare. But the bioweapons' point defenses damaged the ship's engines as it approached. The Seoul couldn't maneuver away after firing. "Evacuate the ship," Minji ordered. "Captain, there's no time." "That's an order. Everyone to the escape pods." The crew scrambled to evacuate. Minji stayed on the bridge, manually piloting her dying ship toward the bioweapon. She activated Hai-Jin's quantum disruptor at point-blank range. The bioweapon systems failed, and the warhead went inert. The Seoul exploded seconds later, too damaged to survive. But the escape pods scattered safely, carrying the crew to Allied vessels. Minji's last transmission was simple. "Target neutralized. Seoul signing off. Colonel Hyunwoo." O had a different problem. One of the bioweapons had landed on an unpopulated moon, intact but active. If it detonated, the biological agent would spread to the nearby inhabited planet. "Marines, we're going down to disarm that thing manually." His troops looked at him like he was insane. "Sir, we have no training for bioweapon disarmament." "Then we'll figure it out when we get there," Hyunwoo said. "Because if we don't, 2 billion people die. Move out." The Marine dropships descended to the moon's surface. The bioweapon sat in a crater, its organic surface pulsing as it prepared to detonate. Hyunwoo and his team approached cautiously, their armor scanners trying to identify weak points. "There," said one of his demolition experts. "That looks like a power node. Can you disable it?" "Maybe. If I'm very careful and very lucky." "You have 3 minutes to be both." The demolition expert worked with steady hands, cutting through bioorganic tissue, disconnecting neural pathways. The bioweapon's pulse quickened. It knew what was happening. It tried to accelerate its detonation sequence. Almost got it. The pulse stopped. The weapon went dormant. "Clear," the expert shouted. Hyunwoo let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Good work. Now let's get off this rock before it explodes anyway." Across 17 star systems, human forces fought desperately to stop the bioweapons. Ships were damaged. Fighters were destroyed. Lives were lost. But every single bioweapon was neutralized. 14 minutes and 37 seconds after the Vrakten launched their final attack, the threat was eliminated. Lieutenant Narisong's voice carried relief across the quantum network. "Admiral, all bioweapons are neutralized. All 17 worlds are safe." Admiral Taemin Choi closed his eyes briefly. Then he opened them and his expression hardened. "All ships returned to attack formations. It's time to end this." Dr. Hai-Jin Lee activated the cascade warheads, 50 weapons carefully positioned across the Nexus expanse. They didn't explode conventionally. Instead, they released quantum disruption pulses that interfered with bioorganic neural networks. The Vrakten ships, all networked together through their collective consciousness, suddenly found that network turned against them. The disruption cascaded from ship to ship, overwhelming their organic systems. Vessels lost power, weapons went offline, life support failed. In minutes, the remaining Vrakten fleet was disabled completely. Commander Sang-wook and his surviving pilots returned to the Indomitable's flight deck. He climbed out of his fighter on shaking legs. He had lost 12 pilots during the intercept operation. 12 friends who had sacrificed themselves to stop the bioweapons. "We did it," his wingman said quietly. "We actually did it." Sang-wook looked at the empty spaces where his fallen pilots should have been. "Yeah, we did." Supreme Commander Vornash watched his fleet die through the collective consciousness. Every ship he lost was like losing a piece of his own mind. The pain was overwhelming. "Enough," he whispered. "Signal retreat. All remaining forces withdraw from the Nexus expanse. Sir, our FTL drives are disabled. Then signal surrender," Vornash shouted. Tell the humans we yield. Admiral Taemin Choi received the surrender message. He looked at his tactical display. 94% of Rakhtun forces destroyed or disabled. All 17 worlds saved. Human casualties at 7%, mostly from the desperate intercept operation. Accept their surrender, he ordered, but keep weapons locked on every Rakhtun vessel. If any of them so much as power up a shield generator, destroy them. Captain Jiwon Park stood beside him on the bridge. We won, sir. Taemin nodded slowly. Yes, we won. Now comes the hard part. What's that? Making sure we never have to do this again. The silence after battle was always strange. Admiral Taemin Choi stood on the observation deck of the Indomitable, watching repair crews work on damaged vessels. The Nexus expanse was littered with debris from thousands of destroyed ships. But beneath that debris, 17 worlds still lived. Final casualty report, sir, Captain Jiwon Park said, approaching with a tablet. Taemin took it and read. Human losses, 7% of the fleet. 6 ships destroyed, 23 damaged. 417 crew members killed in action. Most of those deaths had come during the desperate intercept of the bioweapons. Coalition losses were far worse. 3 years of warfare had cost them billions of lives and 90% of their military forces. But they had survived. Rakhtun losses complete. Their fleet in the Nexus expanse was destroyed or captured. The Empire itself was in shock, unable to process that their seemingly unstoppable expansion had been ended in less than 15 minutes. 17 worlds saved, Jiwon said quietly. It was worth it. Taemin looked at the names of the fallen on the tablet. Captain Minji, who had sacrificed her ship to stop a bioweapon. Lieutenant Taeyang, whose fighter had been destroyed protecting a coalition vessel. Sergeant Boram, who had died disarming a warhead on the surface of a moon. Tell their families they saved billions of lives, he said. Make sure they know that. Yes, sir. 3 days later, the Galactic Coalition Council convened an emergency session. Representatives from every member species gathered, either in person or through holographic projection. The chamber was crowded and tense. Ambassador Yeonhwa Shin stood before them representing humanity. She looked calm, but inside she was nervous. This meeting would determine humanity's place in the galaxy for generations to come. The Council recognizes Ambassador Shin of Earth. The Council speaker announced, You have achieved what we could not. You have stopped the Rakhtun Empire. The Coalition owes humanity a debt we can never repay. Yeonhwa bowed slightly. The Coalition owes humanity nothing. We helped because it was right, not because we expected payment. Murmurs spread through the chamber. The elder species were not used to such statements. In galactic politics, everything had a price. Nevertheless, the speaker continued, the Coalition offers humanity full membership, a permanent seat on the Security Council, and access to all our technology and resources. We accept the membership and council seat, Yeonhwa said. But we don't need your technology. What we need is your cooperation in reforming the Coalition's military doctrine. The chamber erupted in shocked conversation. Several alien representatives looked offended. Our military doctrine has been refined over thousands of years, one elder began. And it failed, Yeonhwa interrupted bluntly. The Rakhtun nearly destroyed you in 3 years. Your tactics, your weapons, your strategies, all of them were inadequate. If humanity hadn't intervened, you would all be extinct. The chamber fell silent. It was harsh, but it was true. What do you propose? The speaker asked carefully. We propose a complete restructuring of coalition military forces. Human officers will train your commanders, human engineers will upgrade your vessels, and human tactical doctrine will become the standard across all coalition fleets. You're asking us to hand over military control to a species that joined the coalition 3 days ago, another representative protested. No, Yeonhwa said. I'm offering to prevent another genocide. The Rakhtun won't be the last threat the galaxy faces. Next time you need to be ready. The debate raged for hours. Some species welcomed human involvement. Others resisted, seeing it as an insult to their pride. But in the end, survival outweighed pride. The Coalition accepted humanity's terms. Commander Reth of the Keltharian Defense Force attended the first joint training session between human and Coalition forces. He watched as Commander Sang-wook Kim demonstrated fighter tactics to a group of alien pilots. Your formations are too rigid, Sang-wook explained. You fly like you're on parade. The enemy can predict your movements. You need to be fluid, adaptive, watch. He took his fighter into a demonstration flight. The Coalition pilots tried to follow his movements. Most of them couldn't keep up. "How do you move like that?" one pilot asked. "Practice," Sangwook said simply. "And instinct. Humans have been flying aircraft for over 200 years. We fought thousands of air battles. We know what works." Reth approached after the demonstration. "Your species has only known about aliens for a few decades. How did you develop such advanced military technology?" Sangwook smiled sadly. "Because we spent thousands of years fighting each other. Every weapon we used against the Vrakthun, we first used against other humans. We learned warfare the hard way." "That seems tragic." "It is," Sangwook agreed. "But now we can use those lessons to protect others. That makes it mean something." Dr. Hee-Jin Lee found herself in demand across the Coalition. Scientists from a dozen species wanted to understand human weapons technology. She held a conference with them in the Indomitable's science bay. "Your plasma weapons are incredibly efficient," a Morphid scientist observed. "How did you achieve such energy density?" "Through failure," Hee-Jin said. "We tested hundreds of designs. Most of them didn't work. Some of them exploded and killed the engineers testing them. But we kept trying, kept refining until we got it right." "But why plasma specifically?" "Because we needed something that couldn't be adapted to," Hee-Jin explained. "Most species use energy weapons that rely on chemical or biological reactions. Those can be countered. But plasma is just superheated matter. You can't evolve a defense against physics itself." A Silurian engineer raised a tentacle. "And your Cascade warheads? How did you know the Vrakthun used a networked consciousness?" "We didn't," Hee-Jin admitted. "We built them as a contingency against any networked enemy we might face. It's called preparing for multiple scenarios. We couldn't predict who we'd fight, but we could prepare for every type of enemy we could imagine." The alien scientists were quiet. The human approach to warfare was alien to them in ways that had nothing to do with biology. Humans prepared for threats that didn't exist yet. They built weapons for enemies they hadn't met. It was paranoid. It was excessive. It was effective. Colonel Hyunwoo-Oh organized a memorial service for the fallen. Human and Coalition personnel gathered in the Indomitable's main hangar. 417 human names were read aloud. Thousands of Coalition names followed. "They died protecting people they never met," Hyunwoo said to the assembled crowd. "Species they had just learned existed. Worlds they had never visited. That's what makes them heroes. Not the battle they won, but the choice they made, to protect others, even at the cost of their own lives." He looked at the Coalition survivors in the crowd. "Our species may look different. We may think differently, but we can all understand sacrifice. We can all honor courage. And we can all work together to build something better than war." The ceremony ended with a traditional human military farewell. Every human in the hangar saluted as the names of the fallen were projected on the walls. Many of the aliens tried to copy the gesture, their various appendages raised in approximation of respect. 2 weeks after the battle, a Vrakthun delegation arrived to negotiate peace terms. Supreme Commander Vornash himself came, his bioship heavily damaged and escorted by human vessels. He was brought to the Indomitable to meet with Admiral Tae-min Choi. The Vrakthun commander was massive, over 3 meters tall, with bio-organic armor grafted to his body. He looked like a creature designed for war, but his eyes showed defeat. "I expected you to execute me," Vornash said through a translator. Tae-min sat across from him in the conference room. "Why would I do that?" "It is what the Vrakthun would do. The defeated leader is consumed by the victors." "We're not Vrakthun," Tae-min said simply. "We're human, and humans believe in second chances." Vornash studied the human admiral. "You defeated us in minutes. Your technology, your tactics, we had no defense. How?" "Because we've been practicing warfare for our entire history," Tae-min explained. "Not against aliens, against each other. We learned to be very good at it." "Too good. And now you will conquer us?" "No," Tae-min said firmly. "Now we're going to teach you how to live peacefully. The Vrakthun Empire will dissolve. Your species will join the Coalition as equals, and you'll help rebuild what you destroyed. My people will resist. We are warriors. We know only conquest." "Then you'll learn something new," Tae-min said. "Or you'll stay isolated in your own systems while the rest of the galaxy moves forward without you. Your choice." The negotiations took weeks, but eventually the Vrakthun agreed to peace terms. Their war fleets would be decommissioned. Their conquered territories would be freed. and their leaders would face justice for their crimes. It wasn't perfect. Many coalition species wanted harsher terms, but Ambassador Yanhua argued for reconciliation. "If we make them enemies forever, we guarantee future wars," she said to the council. "If we give them a path to redemption, we create the possibility of peace." The council reluctantly agreed. 3 months after the battle, Admiral Taemin Choi stood on the observation deck one final time before the fleet returned to Earth. Captain Ji-won Park joined him. "Think they'll remember us?" she asked. "Oh, they'll remember," Taemin said with a slight smile. "We're the species that showed up when all hope was